right, friends, Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern. That means a little PGA talk here at Stokastic. PGA live before lock, a little American Express. We moved from Hawaii to California. We got a whole new situation. We got more problems. We got multiple courses. We're going to get into all of that and more. I am Ben Rasa. I am joined, as I always am, by Geoff Ulrich. Sir, we're getting closer to top end golf. We're in California. Yep. That's an upgrade in some iterations. But we have a unique situation here. How are you feeling on the eve of the American Express?
Not too bad. Like a little bit vindicated last week. I mean, our guy, Tom Kim, who we don't hate, we just, want to see more of. He kind of had a little setback, and that was interesting to watch. It's interesting to watch Twitter lose their minds over it and stuff like that. So that was interesting. Felt like I said, a little bit vindicated. Still, Tom Kim has a couple wins on us. So, but it will be interesting to see how he rebounds from that. Otherwise, yeah, like you said, I mean, for me, the real golf season doesn't start until we get past. Some people say it starts next week at the Farmers. I like to get Pebble Beach out of the way, and then I'm good to go. We get the silly season, these ones out, but it is what it is. It's still golf. We're gonna talk about it, bet on it, and make some lineups, man.
That's absolutely what we're going to do. We're going to talk about that, a little betting, some prize picks. We got everything ready to go. I will say I would have felt a whole lot better about, getting Tom Kim, quote unquote, right if Spieth didn't implode, if Sanjay barely showed up at all. Yeah. I mean, it was a minefield up top. And then Siwoo Kim was really not on my radar. Did you have him in the outright market? Did you do anything?
I mean, it was kind of a similar story with me. Like, I considered Siwoo at the start of the week. I always consider him when we come to these tricky little courses, but like you, I didn't get there, and I had no exposure. So in that way, I didn't profit. I had a really nice lineup without any of the top guys going. It was, after halfway, but all my guys were like even par the rest of the way through. So it didn't, I didn't profit off it at all. I mean, I profited a little bit, but nothing major for sure. It was, felt like a little bit of a lost opportunity, but yeah, I mean, so I know I saw some other sharp people betting Siwoo Kim. He made a lot of sense. He always does on those courses. He's a guy who's basically become a win of your player. So I think whenever you get to, RBC Heritage, the Sony, those places, and he's 40, 50 to 1, he kind of falls in that Russell Henley category where he should always be at least thinking of betting him.
No doubt about it. It was, I guess I can spin anything. I had a real good lineup after the first day, and realistically, it was just Griot, who shot 2 under, that I needed to make the cut for a 6-6. He certainly did not, but Spieth was on that team, and in a way, he did me a favor, because if he would have made it and Spieth would have been the lone miscut, I'm not sure I could have handled that.
That was pretty. It was a brutal week. I mean, if you had Spieth, you had to be feeling. I would have been feeling so good. I mean, after round one, he's got a great closing rate after round one. Rarely he doesn't, he just rarely does that where he gets out in front. Usually he's a fast starter, and he sticks around till the very end. At the very least, he'll get you a top 5. But that was weird, man. Like, I'm not going to lie. I don't really know what's going on with him. If maybe it was just like a hiccup round and he's actually closer. I have a feeling that we'll see some more from him soon, but yeah, that was strange for sure.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with him this week. Anything else you want to talk about from Sony before we make the move and start diving into the Amex here?
Nothing particularly. I mean, we saw some guys like really spike with the putter there. I know Benny Yan is one of them. He also had like probably the most interesting shot tracker hole of the week. But yeah, I guess my only thing if you're looking at the putting from that, it's a little bit quirky greens, a little bit slower. Some guys always seem to putt well there, but other than that, nothing major to take away. I think we talked about Tom Kim. I think that's the most interesting thing, seeing how he rebounds. And if this putting thing becomes like a multi-event thing for him, much like it did for Morikawa at one point early in his career, where he just couldn't putt at all, and then he figured out how to putt and he started winning again. So we'll see with Tom Kim. I'm very interested to see how he rebounds.
I am as well, but let's turn the page, and no better place to start than our friends at PrizePicks. They sponsor this show. We have talked about, if you're getting action down, you haven't been over there, there's a lot of opportunities. We're projecting over under individual players. And in addition to getting a $100 deposit match bonus with PrizePicks, when you sign up and make that deposit, the link is below, you're going to get on top of that 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. That's covering you for everything. So if you say, man, I like the tools here, but I haven't been able to budget, coming in for a month, this is a way to do it. You get on PrizePicks, and in addition, you're going to get a month of everything. We've got tools catered to them. You can look at those birdies are better. You can look at the strokes. You can look at all these type of matchups, string together those multiple legs, and hopefully hit one. And I wanted to ask you, related to PrizePicks and then in general, this is such a weird week. Do you look to maybe say, okay, I'm gonna group my guys by course, or I'm okay mixing and matching guys at different venues on different days?
Yeah. So like if you're talking about it like for a heads up matchup, is that
Or, absolutely.
I think if you can get action where you're getting like one player at La Quinta and you're getting another player at like Stadium, you should absolutely pursue that. Obviously it's a little bit player dependent. I'm not going to take like I'm not going to take like a 200. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to take a 200 ranked player versus like, Patrick Cantlay or something, but you should be looking for that. Absolutely. And I think it probably becomes more of a DFS thing, especially for Showdown, but and potentially for Classic. But yeah, I mean, look, in the prop department, I was definitely looking at that right before we went on. I think that you can do it in the heads up, potentially also in the green and regulation department. They have those on PrizePicks. If you got guys at La Quinta with some, and I know there's some top players on La Quinta who are listed up here in the props.
Yep.
Consider that. So yeah, I would definitely be looking to play the course angle. It's the difference has shrunk a little bit between TPC Stadium and La Quinta, but there's still a difference. It's still a harder course. So I still think there's an edge there to be played.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that throughout the show, but let's talk about 3 courses. This is what we are dealing with. So I want to set the stage and then we can dive in. For people hopping in, first of all, welcome. What's going on? We're going to get into all sorts of topics tonight, not even just golf. There will be some wild animal takes if you watch the NFL show. Don't worry. Got that saved for later in the show. We are at a Pro-Am. So 1, these are going to be crazy long rounds. 2, it's a Saturday cut. 3, you play 3 different courses. And yes, I would say La Quinta is the easiest, and I would say Stadium is the worst. But I also think that the gap isn't that big in this situation. So I'm not going to go crazy. How do you approach this? Clearly got to take apart these par 5s. They're gettable par 72s.
They're very gettable par 72s. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I guess the nice thing is it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of difference between them. Like obviously one is Pete Dye and it's a little bit trickier. You got more island greens, but the other is a Jack Nicklaus course. There's water on it too. There's a lot of bunkers on all the courses. And I think the main thing is they're all kind of less than driver venues and they're all easier to hit in terms of green and regulations. And you don't have much rough to deal with. And you're kind of going to get the same things. Like they're different courses, but you're going to get, less than driver off the tee in a lot of spots. You're still going to have easier, shorter to mid-range approaches. And you're going to have a lot of birdie putts from like 20 feet and in. And that's really what I've like when I'm looking at players. And I think it really does correlate. Obviously you need the approach, you need the guys to spike. And I think it's really just in that mid to short iron range, but you need players who can sink like the 20 foot putts. And that's what we've seen, like players who are just get efficient, either, just throughout their career from that or just for a week. But those are the guys who tend to do the best here. You can list off guys like Harman, Putnam. Maybe they haven't won the event, but those are the guys who consistently finish top 20 here because they can just come in and they just roll a few more 20 footers in. And then they make the Saturday cut and they go from there. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I actually think that's something I've tried to do less of this year is look for the winner and then say, okay, this is what you need. Like look at the top 10, look at a large sample because it's like, oh, Hudson Swafford won. Okay, I need what he is. Maybe not because look at everyone around him. It's a different type of player. Certainly you can get there without being a long hitter. I would assume, as I always do with Pro-Ams, you're not going to be as punished around the green, getting up and down, pin locations, things like that. They have to, make it more manageable. But you can, these courses are gettable, but you can also make some mistakes. This is not like, oh, there's no doubles out there. If you screw up, you're going to see some big numbers out there. You just see a lot of birdies as well.
Yeah, there's the giant bunker, that you can get lost in.
It'll get you.
There's always someone every year who takes like 4 strokes to get out of it. And you just feel bad for them because you're like, this is the stupidest bunker ever. It is pretty stupid, but it's there. It's on the 16th. It's a par 5. I think it's the 16th. It's a par 5. And, if your ball falls in there, it's, it can cost you an extra stroke. So there's a lot of bunkers. and there's water, like you said. So the double bogeys are there. But if you're hitting your irons consistently well, like you won't get in trouble. So that is one last thing though. Like the forecast this week is pretty crappy. Like that's another thing that I don't know how it's going to necessarily affect play, but it's really cold there right now. And there's a little bit of wind. So I don't think it's going to get like crazy tough, but I'm just wondering how the cool weather will affect the players if they do at all. It might make things, a little bit more dicey on approach. The ground could be a little bit, heavier with the cold weather, and then just also like the air temperature. So I feel like that could be a factor in making this. You might see like 18, 19 under par, and that's happened here before, rather than 20 to a little bit more. So I don't know. I think that probably moves things back in the favor of the ball strikers a little bit, but it's not enough where I would be changing my approach. Just something to think about, I guess. And for now.
Yeah. I mean, I like to work backwards. What I'd recommend for people, pick conditions, set your mind on a winning score target, and then work backwards. Okay. If I knew the winning score was 10 under, I would build wildly different than if I knew it was 25 under. You have to anticipate that, maybe stack some teams around the green, things of that nature. But let's start to get into the golfers. We got surprisingly, for a tournament that I don't like, they seem to like it because Jon Rahm is here. Scotty Scheffler is here. Tony Finau is here. Patrick Cantlay is here, and Xander is here. We've got 5 players north of 10,000. And one of them, to me, I want to start backwards. Do you think anybody relative to a 10K player is going to go to Xander, given last time we saw him, it was just injury news, aplenty in Hawaii?
Yeah, no, I mean, his ownership projection, I mean, they even surprised that it was as high as it was on our site. I want to say it was like close to 10%. Maybe I'm forgetting.
No, it's around there. I think he's going to come in more like 6%, 7%.
Yeah, it's weird because people obviously this is just me getting vibes and paying attention to what's happening around our industry and other people talking, but it does seem like there's an appetite for Xander like this week, which surprises me a little bit because I don't really know why. It's not that I don't think he's a good player or even that this is like a poor setup. I think if he was healthy and going okay, I'd be very interested. And maybe that speaks to just the kind of player he is. But we have Cantlay at 10-1. We got Sanjay down there. We've got like multiple good players below him. I just don't know why you need to take on the risk. But I have a feeling he might even come in like close to 10%. So he's interesting as a pivot, but he's also, I don't know if you're going to get like supremely low ownership. Like he's not going to be 3% like he was in Maui when people were taking the massive risk and it really didn't pay off. So I don't really know what to do with him. I'd probably just avoid him, to be honest. I think that's the best play. He hasn't even finished a competitive tournament, and the injury is still the injury. It could flare up at any time. So
I tend to agree. If he's 4% or something, I don't mind the dart throw, but you got 4 guys right above him who are all playing, world-class golf.
Yeah.
Check every box. Now, how you choose between those 4? Good luck. Rahm just won. Finau was playing out of his mind. Scheffler's playing consistent golf, and I think Cantlay might set up the best when you look at it, certainly. So, do you have any ability to kind of decipher and work through 4 guys that I think you could do really, really well to get exposure to?
Yeah. So again, as we always do, we're going to, talk about the Stokastic ownership and stuff like that. Cantlay just eats up Pete Dye courses. He's first in strokes gained total, first in strokes gained tee to green in that regard. I would have a lot of interest. I still have interest in Scotty Scheffler here. Scotty Scheffler's doing everything fine. His putter just has not shown up for a while. And even on weeks when he's contended, I'm talking a few months ago, his putter just wasn't that good. When the putter shows up for it, he's going to win again. And he's finished well on this course. He is projected as the lowest owned of the Cantlay if you take Cantlay and Rahm and just leave Finau out of it, he's lower owned projecting than Rahm and Cantlay. So Finau is projected with a little bit lower ownership, but I feel like Scheffler could be the guy that just really we're projecting him for 19. I wouldn't be shocked if he comes in under 15. I just don't know how many people are really going to click Scotty Scheffler when you've got that Xander now looking healthy. Finau, obviously, people are still liking him for good reason. And then Cantlay and Rahm, I just don't know how many people are going to click them. And I feel like for GPPs, that's where I want to go. So always looking for the guy who's giving us the best leverage and still in a good spot and playing well. I think Scheffler's fine to go back to. I've kind of maybe in a way I'm digging myself a hole here because I almost feel like I just have to keep playing him at low ownership till he wins. But I also think that's a fine strategy because if he's lower owned, like when he eventually does win, like the leverage he gains is going to be awesome. So I go back to Scheffler. I think Cantlay absolutely sets up the best, like you said. But I think for larger fields, you got to go back, give Scotty one more run here.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'm not making it a hard and fast rule, but I would love to get 2 of the 4 in lineups, and I think you absolutely can. Like to me, some weeks when we talk about the top pricing, got a couple elite players, and then you have a couple guys that are getting a 1 week bump to fill out the pricing. This is not that. You have 4 players to me that are legitimately, you could make the case in the top 10 in the world, like elite players in any field. And I would love to capture 2 major win equity pieces without sacrificing a ton. I think you can absolutely do that this week.
And look, and some guys in chat are making good points. Like this is where you should eat the chalk. And I think there's a couple of reasons that they're right. What did we just see last week? The entire field got bombed out because the top players sucked. So that's going to make people a little bit, oh, maybe I don't need to go overweight on these guys as much as I think I need to. And then the other factor here is one same thing we've seen from this event. Like maybe we don't get the big name winners, but Rahm's won here before. He's been in contention deep a couple times. Cantlay, the exact same thing. Scheffler, like the big names get in contention here, regardless of this being a funky tournament and a birdie fest. They do pretty well. So I agree. Like I think that for the contrarian strategy is probably to go really heavy on the top guys this week and bypass some of these players, because I think there's also a pretty distinct gap. I mean, like, I like Cameron Young, and I think Cameron Young's probably like the one guy I would leave out of this conversation, but like Taylor Montgomery's 8,900, you've got other players in that range, even Wise, Harmon. These aren't, they're good, but like, they're not elite, and they're maybe not even close to being elite. Like when you compare them to like the Schefflers and the Cantlays. So I think it's a good week to think like that as well, as far as a lineup approach.
Yeah, again, that's where I think that drop off is, but they're still important. It's not to say, and I know you're not saying this, that we're just going to ignore the next range, because you've got Sanjay off the bounce back. He hadn't missed a cut since July. He's going to be just fine. You've got some names that I don't think people are really, or at least I haven't heard them really talking about as much. Will Z is going to be pretty popular, it looks like, but Tom Kim, Sam Burns, who's an elite scorer, and then guys like Harmon, who loves this place. And it seems like, and I'm guilty of this too, nobody's going to play Siwoo because he just won. Talk to me about that next batch of players before we move to the mid-range.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you're going to want to get some of these guys in your player pool. And again, like playing cash lineups as well, balanced approach, completely fine as well. So, starting down, I mean, Zalatoris, the Zalatoris love is just, I really thought like people would be off him start of the year, but it's, he had the one big finish and he's right back. So I'm again, perfectly fine waiting to see. He obviously had the good Tournament of Champions, but there's still things being said that he's like, trying to protect his back a bit. That was just a fun limited field event where he started slow. This is certainly more putting based. And again, like I come back to the stats that I'm looking at, putting within 20 feet. Will Zalatoris can strike the ball, the cover off the ball this week. And, if he doesn't sink those 20 footers, like it's not that it's not going to matter. He'll make the cut and he'll probably finish top 20, but the upside is limited. So I actually look at him as a good fade candidate for larger fields. I think, again, like you want to talk cash games or just like balanced approaches, it's fine. But that's a player that, again, for GPPs, fine fading here. His price is still up there. I think where it gets interesting is when you start talking about like Sam Burns and Brian Harmon and some of those dudes. Because obviously, Burns is struggling and Harmon just feels like a big talent gap. So I think if I was going to take a shot with him, it would be Burns this week. His ownership is super low. It's projecting well under 10%. And, he's played well at this event before. What we've seen from Burns throughout his career is he can get in some ruts. But when he comes out of the rut, it's fast and furious. It's a top 10. And if he does that this week, like, you're going to feel dumb for not rostering him. So I think, again, that's the player that I would feel okay sort of rostering there at lower ownership. The rest of them, I mean, there's good players here. Like, you can make a case for a lot of these guys. Obviously, Tom Kim's there and Cam Young. So
no doubt about it. Listen, these are good players. For me, it's a range though that I'm going to have to be willing to not omit altogether, but not get over on. So we'll see. If he beats me, he beats me. I think there's limitations. I think there's potential health issues, and he's popular. So it makes it pretty easy for me to come in under there. Obviously, my man Aaron Wise, I'm going to probably get to. I think Harmon's as safe as they come. He loves this event. Course history checks out. Everything is good with him. Wise has fixed the putter. Like, these guys check a lot of the boxes I want, no doubt. And as much as people say that I'm a Sam Burns hater, because I never recommend him, it's that I think he's over-owned perpetually. He's not going to be over-owned this week. So if you want just a dark horse winner, high upside guy that I think is probably have a lower floor than the rest of his peers in his range, I'm fine with Sam Burns. How low are you willing to start before we get to the mid-range? Like, would you anticipate starting with like Cam Young in some lineups?
Yeah, see, this is my biggest quandary this week is I do like Cam Young. Like, I bet him. He's a good putter from within 20 feet. He's a pretty good wedge player too. A little bit, not quite as good as some of the other guys, but he's pretty consistent, like in certain ranges. And I really like him this week. Like, I just think he's ready. Like, he was top 5 at the Hero. He knows he needs to win. He knows he's capable of doing it. He's going to do it soon. So I'm fully okay with him. I wish the ownership was lower. And I also kind of like Wise, like you said, like the putter there is really improved for him. I'm not scared of taking him in these events, but you're eating a lot of ownership by starting with both of those guys. So I think what I would probably feel better about, and this is probably what I'll end up doing, is just maybe like start with Young and maybe mix in Wise to some other lineups with, like, I don't know, where getting a little crazy or something. But yeah, I do feel okay starting with like 2 of these guys, because I think you can just, you can still build like sort of stars and scrubs. It's just you're just going heavy on the 8K range and even some high 7 guys. So yeah, I think it's a reasonable approach this week. I do like stacking again, if you're in the big fields, I do like stacking the stars better. But if I was starting here, like, Cam Young would be on my list of guys to play with. And then it just becomes like an ownership game where, do you want to go with Wise, or do you want to try and get it like a lower owned Sam Burns to pair him with, and then go from there? But I really do like Cam Young and Aaron Wise from this range. It's just, so does everyone else.
Yep. And that's the thing. We see time and time again in PGA, it doesn't take much to leverage. We'll talk about some of those builds later in the show. But let's keep it going. Let's move to the mid-range. Let's move to the 8K range. I do want to say, we've been talking about, and in tournaments like this, honestly, it's early in the year. It's hard to really know where guys are at. You have to play some game theory. And the easiest way to do that is to look at projections and ownership, particularly our ownership. And if you want to do that, you can do it for free for 5 days. Just go to the link in the description of this video. We have a free 5-day trial to Stokastic PGA. So you click it. If you sign up, you're going to get that. You'll be able to get all the showdown tools, everything that we've got for the week, and you check it out. And maybe you win some money because of it and you stick around. Maybe you don't and you say, okay, I checked it out for the Amex and I'm going to shelf it and maybe come back for the Masters or something like that. It's totally up to you, but it's 5 free days of our platinum tools. Again, all you got to do is click that link in the description. It takes a couple minutes and you are in, and you can see all the tools that me and Geoff are talking about. But let's talk about this next kind of, batch of players. You mentioned Taylor Montgomery, who's the putting god. Cam Davis, I'll just say it right now, I absolutely love him this week. I think he's in a perfect spot. Plus 6.5 tee to green last week. Couldn't putt at all. Change of surface. Good history here. Putnam, Thigala, Tom Hoge, who's just automatic. KH Lee, Hadwin, Wyndham Clark, Pendrith and Poston, 8K range. The floor is yours.
Yeah, this is kind of why I do think that you can make some pretty effective lineups with, like, starting with Cam Young and almost just bypass a lot of the 9K ranges that, I like a lot of these players, just like I think a lot of people do. Cam Davis, pretty obvious. He's actually a very solid putter from within 20 feet. Wasn't last week, but the metrics like say that we'll probably be expecting a bounce back here. We got Hadwin, who just like crushes this course every year. He'll be extremely popular, but he's certainly playable. My guy, KH Lee, I kind of out on him last week. I thought he was going to like go off for a sec in the first round, but he had a really good ball striking week. He just couldn't get the putter going. But another player who's played this event a few times, I think he sets up better this week than last week. I think this is kind of his wheelhouse. He won on another similar style course, like kind of a, not a desert course, it was in Texas and at the Byron Nelson. I think this could be a spot where you see him potentially really pop. He's probably my favorite overall value in this range, Lee. And also, I don't think you're going to get super high ownership on him because he's sandwiched by Hadwin and Hoagie. So KH Lee guy, I'm all over this week. I bet him as well. It's funny because I kind of mentioned last week as I closed my lineup for some reason that I like Taylor Montgomery, and I'm actually going to go against him this week. I feel like the lack of ball striking, weirdly enough, may actually catch up to him here. Like obviously this is a huge putting week, and you need to sink your shorter mid-range putts, but you also need to hit it close. And like, I think that gets magnified even more at this event than it did last week. And I think that's going to cost him a little bit because his ball striking sucked last week. Like it really did. Yeah. On the weekend, I mean, he had himself set up perfectly. And he couldn't hit anything close. He wasn't hitting greens. So, part of it's a price thing as well. Like you've got Putnam underneath him. I'd rather probably roll with Putnam or just go down to that KH Lee, Hoagie range than play Montgomery. I think you've got to make some choices here because you obviously can't play like 8 players in this range. And Montgomery's a guy I'm actually okay leaving out for DFS. If you want to get some action on him to bet as well, that's fine. But I'm pretty comfortable fading him this week after recommending him last week, to be honest.
Yeah, again, he's going to be a tough evaluation for me because his ball striking is not good at all. But he's such a good putter that he masks it. He lost 4.5 strokes on the approach last week, but he gained 6 strokes putting, and that's not an outlier. That's just what he does.
Yeah,
I certainly prefer Aaron Wise and Cam Davis. Not even close to me.
Yeah,
I guess where I get into more of a decision is a guy like Adam Hadwin, who, I mean, he loves this place historically, playing pretty solid golf. He's in the lower 8s. He makes a lot of cuts. But, giving you a 38th here is not going to cut it. Do you think he can build off what he did at Houston in the swing season and go back to him? Or are you saying you're more apt to take KH Lee, who you already talked about?
Yeah, I'll roll with KH. I mean, okay. I really do like the setup for him. And Hadwin, I think Hadwin's he's almost been like romanticized in people's minds of this course because he came here 2 years in a row and he just like, he shot the 59 at this event. And it's like, oh, Hadwin always blows up here. Like he's awesome. And he did do that a couple of years, but I don't think that means he's going to do that every year. And I don't like the fact that he doesn't play the Sony. And I don't like the fact that he's 8,200 because he's paired with guys in KH and Hoagie we have more history on who set up just as well and may actually be better players overall. Like it's pretty close between these guys. Like I think realistically, if Hadwin didn't have this fantastic course history, if it was just like even just a little bit less, could easily be, in the day range. So yeah, I don't think he's like a poor play, but he's another player who you got to make some decisions here. I'm playing KH Lee and I would probably I would play Hoagie over him as well. So those would be the guys I'd be trying to get to. The nice thing is the ownership will be spread. So I think you just play whoever you want in this range. I don't think there's need to necessarily like look for like a super low owned pivot because I don't even know if there is one, to be honest. So
no, I mean, I would anticipate a guy like Wyndham Clark, who we haven't seen, probably doesn't get a ton of love. I think JT Boston's fine, continue to play him. Got some reps out on the island for sure. I'm very comfortable with that price point, and these guys could realistically be your 3rd, 4th man in if you go very balanced. So I have nothing to say about the range that's really negative. It's more of a best available than a game theory in my mind for the 8Ks.
Yep.
Final guy, I just want to ask you quick. We kind of glossed over him. I know Thiegel is explosive. It doesn't strike me like this is his moment by any stretch, but he's got the talent. He's a dangerous player. Do you have any feel on him? I'm pretty indifferent this week.
I'm indifferent as well. Like I won't like you. It's like I don't have a huge reason or I don't have a stat to throw out or anything other than just he's like a really good player and like his birdie rate over the fall was really good. And yeah, you could pop up here. I think Thiegel is the perfect type of player where if you like him and you just don't want to miss out, go to the betting market and throw some dineros on him. And I think he's probably potentially a little bit overpriced just with the players that are underneath him who've been playing well and set up better. So for me, he would be like just a no. I think this range is too strong. And but again, player with upside who, if you really like and you want to invest in, I think a good long-term investment, you're still getting a good number. Just hedge that way.
Yeah. Pendrith, we had a question from chat on him. He's an interesting name. Now, I think step one, you have to ask yourself, okay, do I think short game and putting will matter? Because if it does, you could be in trouble with this guy. He can't chip at all. Not a good around the green player. He had lost strokes putting in 6 straight. Then he flipped it at RSM. Off the tee, he's automatic. The guy's elite. He's going to gain strokes off the tee. His irons are hit and miss. So you know what you're getting. I don't have all of that. And then it's like, what does it translate to? I don't really know, to be honest. He's indifferently in the ownership. And I'm, again, indifferent. I would rather get Post, and I'll say that.
Yeah, like my only argument for Pendrith is that, he seems to do pretty well in these easier scoring events, but his strength is off the tee. It's a little bit like Cam Young, but the putter with him does come and go too, right? Like I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, if he doesn't putt, I mean, you're toast. Like you could be toast by Friday. So I just think that he's in too strong a range still, and I just don't even know. Pendrith is he's strange because like a year ago, I mean, like I barely even knew who this guy was. And now he's like, we're talking about him as an 8K player. So guy who's popped up pretty quick, still just kind of, making some decisions about, but I think this feels too deep to really worry about him too much, to be honest. I think he's, like you said, Poston's right there. And you've got guys underneath him who are potentially undervalued. So no, I mean, it's just a guy that I haven't thought much about this week. If he beats me, he beats me. I'll find some lower owned guys other places.
We'll get to the salary savers in a little bit. We got another range to hit though, 7K range. Again, a lot more names. And I mean, fast forward, go back 5 years, Rose, Day, and Ricky. What a range. This would be the 11K range.
Yeah.
In years past. Now, not so much. They do kick it off. Rose, Day, and Fowler, Keith, Denny McCarthy, Bez, who played awful, Patrick Rogers, kind of a sneaky name, your boy Davis Riley. Dark horse winner can come from this range, no doubt in my mind, but I also think a lot of missed cuts are coming from this range.
Yeah, this is where the volatility starts for sure. Yep. I'll start by mentioning the Stokastic projections. They are high on Mr. Justin Rose, which I find interesting because his projections ain't nothing. I mean, you're going to get Justin Rose at pretty low ownership this week. And, what we've seen from Rose is as he's gotten older, like these shorter little tracks where he's still an elite putter, he can pop. He's certainly done some good work at them before. So as you said, all these guys, it almost feels like as soon as you hit the 7K range too, it's like the volatility just shoots up because Rose could easily come in here and shoot 74. So I think there's an interesting GPP angle there. I think Ricky's going to be, unfortunately, especially with like the Damon withdrawal, Ricky's going to have some decent ownership attached to him this week, which kind of just has me out on him. I know he struck the ball better. He's played well in the desert, but I don't feel the need to eat like chalk. I mean, it's not going to be like that highly owned, but it's probably enough owned that I just don't need to think about him. My real thing with this range is I've got 2 guys I like in Davis Riley and Christian Bizaden that I'm going to play. And I think Bez is in a great spot coming off what was just a horrible 2 rounds in the Sony. But he's an elite putter. I think he sets up extremely well for this course. We've seen him bounce back from missed cuts numerous times. It's a player who multiple top 5s in South Africa over the fall. His last missed cut, he had one of his best results of the year last year off the missed cut. I'm not worried about it at all with him. I think great low on play there. And Davis Riley he should be in the 8K range. I just think plain and simple, he's underpriced. So I'm not going to worry about Ricky. Rose is interesting if you want like a sub 5 play, but for me, it's Bez and it's Davis Riley here.
So Bez is the guy that I'm struggling with. I liked him last week. He didn't just miss the cut. He was awful.
It was bad. No, for sure.
Like he had the rare, you combine awful ball striking and he couldn't putt.
Yeah.
Now you got to take a wider lens, and you did. He missed the cut at the Travelers that was the last missed cut before this. And then he came in second at the John Deere. Before that, he missed the cut at the PGA, 15th at the Charles Schwab next time out. Missed the cut at the Genesis, 25th at Honda the next time. Like, this guy bounces back. it doesn't seem to linger. If you want to take the more skeptical view, hasn't had approach numbers like this ever. His two worst approach numbers ever on tour are the last two events he's played. So maybe there's a large issue, or maybe it's nothing. I tend to think it's nothing. I'm fine with him.
It would be different if, and again, my opinion would be different if, everyone was of my opinion and they were like, oh, well, it's just one, he makes the cut a lot. We'll go back to him and he's pushing 12, 15% ownership. Yeah. Then I'd be a different story, but I think it's a good chance. I mean, again, we're talking about a guy who's, I think he's top 5 in strokes gained putting. When you look at the key ranges this week, he's like third from 15 to 20 feet. If his putter gets going on this surface, his ball striking might not even matter that much. So I'm a fine player that I think is worth taking a shot with. And again, you don't need to get a ton of exposure to him, especially if you're making 100 lineups or whatever. So I like him, and I think that he's worthwhile to take a shot on here.
Yeah, I mean, the ownership jumps off the page in the sense that he's not going to be popular. It is a fair point. Tim just mentioned. What has he done on the PGA? Honestly, not that much. But he does have uber talent. We saw it in Europe, of course. And
he was runner up at the Deer last year. He's got up there. You're not wrong to say he does finish T17, T30 a lot. But he's gotten in contention like Bay Hill a couple times. The talent is there. I mean, he's beaten some supreme fields over in Europe. So you're not wrong to be skeptical. And if you're not in on him, I don't play him for sure. There's certainly some risk involved here, but I think that you'll see him bounce back quickly. At least I hope you will, because I'm going to have some exposure to him, and I already bet. So
when you work down, feel free to talk about Harris English, who you seem to mention a good amount. You've got Griot right there, Detry, Munoz, Smalley, Chris Kirk playing great golf right now. Then it starts to taper off as we get to the lower 7K range. But what do you make of the second half of this range, starting with kind of 7,600 and below?
Yeah. Admittedly, what was Harris English doing on the weekend? I mean, I thought he was going to win the tournament on Thursday. So I just kept seeing him fall, and I didn't even look at what he did. Do you know? Was he just terrible at everything? Or
so typical me, put out my tweet, had him as the fade, and just here we go, another chalk up another winner in the wrong section, and then he collapsed. I mean, give him 73rd just to give you reference of it turned quickly. I don't know what to make of him now. He's making cuts, but he's made 6 straight cuts, and he has nothing inside the top 25. So he can't seem to get 72 holes together.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a Harris English truther, but I probably have a higher opinion of him than a lot of people. He was a pretty talented guy coming out. And I think that it's not a bad place to go back to him. He always plays well on the West Coast, kind of all these stops. So he does seem like he's working towards something, but it was pretty bad last week. I don't know. I'm not going out of my way. I would rather play Detry at 7,600. I mean, I think it's a good spot. I think that these easier setups are easier for the players making the transition. I think we've talked about this before, and Detry's just good. He's pretty solid putter. The approaches are fine most weeks. I don't really have any. He's definitely got a safer floor than my guy Bez. That's for sure. So if you're looking for a safer pivot, the guy with upside, that's probably it. So I'm kind of just out on English here. We'll see what happens. I'm just in a wait and see approach. Maybe we'll give him a run when it gets down to the Poe. He's a really good Poe putter. But for me, I'm kind of, after Detry, I'm not going to go back to Chris Kirk. He actually didn't really hit the ball last week either. I would kind of just go down and start looking at guys in the 74, 73 range.
Is one of them Steven Jaeger?
I think I'm okay saying that this may not be the best setup for Jaeger. I mean, he's been really consistent though. He's been good. Which is, weird because it means that I made a good call on saying that you should keep playing him and betting him. But I don't know. His approach numbers have been pretty inconsistent, and it's kind of the same thing with Montgomery. I don't know if he's going to be saved. You have to hit it close here. I could easily see this as being the week where Jaeger he's okay, but he shoots 73 rounds of 70, and he just goes home after Saturday. So I don't really think it's a great spot. There's also some there's decent players in there. Lipsky has been hitting the ball well. Guy we talked about last week. I thought he was going to win for a bit. I still don't mind Lee Hodges. And I think even underneath them, there's players fairly comparable. Callum Tarrant's down there, Neesmith. So I'm kind of out on Jaeger this week. I may just sprinkle in a FOMO bet just so I don't wake up Thursday and want to like run into traffic. But other than that, I don't think he's a great play.
So it's an interesting. I definitely like him more than you. He's got the short game. He's got the putting. His approach game is weak. Now, I don't know if this is better or worse. He's bleeding strokes, but it's not erratic. Like he loses around 1 stroke on the approach basically every week. Not someone where he's like, oh, he's losing 6 strokes on the approach.
Right.
But I just don't know if that help, upside wise, can he do it without flipping that? Now he got hot with the irons for a little in the middle of 2022, but of course the putter flip, just classic golf right there. I'm not saying you got to jam him. I definitely like more than you. I think
he does seem a little bit undervalued at this point, doesn't he? Like he's making a lot of
good
cuts.
golf.
Yeah.
Like just on form alone, I think he belongs in the conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not as long of a sample size, but could you say the same thing about Ben Griffin, who is a name that I didn't really know about? He came in 12th at Sony. This guy has continued from the swing season. He is tearing it apart tee to green. It's hard not to notice him.
Yeah, Griffin's one of those players who, like, you almost feel like you get an Adam Long situation where he just comes in and, no one really knows who he is. And then all of a sudden he wins here and gets like 22 under. Again, like I mentioned, why I don't think you need to necessarily go heavy on some of those guys in the mid-7. I mean, Griffin's very playable, I think. I actually don't mind Luke List here either, surprisingly enough. Really good Pete Dye record, was hitting it well at Hawaii. Definitely, comes with risk, but we're in the 7K range. So List is interesting too. But Griffin is, you can't argue with recent form like this. I mean, and I think that with a newer player like this, like the field is stronger, but we've got this 3-course rotation. It's still a more relaxed event. Like we're not at like Riviera where like maybe Tiger Woods is sitting in the stands or something. Like it's just a relaxed pitch and putt basically for these guys. And I think that helps a guy like Griffin. So I look at him as like him or Callan Tarrant, I would say, to me, are really the players you want to target here. I don't think that you'll see these young guys be phased at all by this setup or this event. And I think those two, especially, with Griffin playing last week, you should be getting the vote there.
Anything. Yeah. I mean, listen, I wouldn't fault anyone from going there. We still have about a handful of names before we get to the salary savers, before we get to the lineup build, before we get to the hippos and gorillas. But I want to ask you about the bottom of the 7s. Sig, you mentioned Beniodd's Adventures, Justin Sue. I mean, there are names down here, Bo Hostler. Yeah. Is there anyone before we get to the 6s that pique your interest?
So Justin Sue is a name to just like keep in mind, because like there were times at the Sony where he was hitting lasers. Like when this guy gets his approach game consistent, he is going to, he could potentially do some stuff. So I don't know if this is going to be the week though. Like he's still very inconsistent. He makes like 3-4 birdies in a row, and then it's like 3 under par or 3 over par for like the rest of his rounds. So just a player to keep an eye on. I don't know. I don't really know what to do with him right now, because I don't really want to just start FOMO betting him, but he's definitely a player with talent. Benny's interesting. 8th. He really likes playing in the desert. He's done well at Phoenix. He's done well at this event. The putter was a machine for him last week. He had 1 bad hole, or he would have been there on Sunday. He had 1 hole where he took a quad. He took like 3 chips to get onto the green for some Benny-on reason. And, that was it. Like he went from 10 under to 6 under. And then he played like the rest of his golf in like 7 under par. So I look, this is a player I fully like think he'll win at some point. He's good enough to do it. He's got good wedges. He's good at everything. He's very inconsistent. So I sprinkled him at like 150. I think I think you roll with it. He's if he's got some confidence with the putter, why not try it for 1 more week? We're in 7,100 range. So I lose my voice here, but yeah, I'm fine giving him a run for 1 more week.
Not only was it his best putting performance ever, it was his best putting performance by multiple strokes. He gained 7 strokes putting. If you told me he did that, I would have assumed he won. So that part is frustrating.
And he probably would have if it wouldn't have been for that 1 hole, to be honest.
That's true. So. No doubt about it. All right. We're going to talk about salary savers in a second, but I do want to let people know, I know it's the golf show, And I know my friends who do NBA shows have already told you, but I spend a lot of time over on the Odd Chopper site. I spend a lot of time in the betting streets. And if you have not seen our new NBA betting tool called NBA Bet Pro, it's another thing that you can get completely free for a week. So if you like to do a little betting action, come try it out for a week and see what you think. Prop bets by a team, the same people that make these DFS tools, by Alex and the team. They do a great job. They have worked through this trial and error, and they're making some money. No doubt about it. It's betting. It's tough, but we believe in this system. And I really think if you like to bet, it is worth checking this out. And listen, it's free for a week. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But click that link. Come on in. I'll see you in there. Obviously, I'm using it because I just don't have time. Listen, I do a lot of sports. I do not have time to look at NBA props at night. So this saves me a ton of time. I go there, I sort, and I make my bets. Definitely worth checking out. So shout out to them. And again, let me know what you think when you sign up for that free week. It's time to talk salary savers. There are names down here. There's no doubt about it. Now, who those names are that you're going to click, I'm interested to see. Certainly ownership doesn't seem to play a big factor when we get down here. You are simply choosing best available. Is there anyone that jumped off the page? For me, it's obviously more tournament-centric plays. I think if you're playing cash, you're going to land in the sevens.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, we're talking like lineup building for a sec. I mean, getting two guys in the 6K range is going to be really unique. Like you can kind of play whoever you want up top, ownership be damned, if you're going to put in two guys in the 6Ks, because I just don't there's nobody really popping here with any kind of ownership. I think the highest project we have is Carl Jung at like 4.6. So, and that may even be, that feels like optimistic. So, there's some guys down here can spike for a week. I mean, look, we're ultimately on some resort courses. One of these guys shoots a 62, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So I have my eye on a couple guys. I'm going to go back to a dude who was popping and probably annoying us more than anything in the fall, and Justin Lauer at 6,800. Again, this is more of just a stat thing for me, but this should be his bread and butter, man. This guy hits his wedges and his mid iron approaches well, and he sinks putts from 20 feet and in. Looking back at his Korn Ferry results too, like he's been pretty consistent. I feel like this is, if Lauer is going to put up results, it's either going to be at like Punta Cana or like here. These easier courses where he's just going to get in a groove. The power's not going to be an issue for him. So I like him at 6,800 quite a bit. I think that's a good play. He's not going to have any low ownership on him. It looks like he's not even projecting as like a top 5 play in the 6K range. So I'm gonna play the stats kind of thing, and I'll call him my model play, I guess, this week.
Okay. I mean, listen, the opportunity cost is like 0 in the sense that there's no obvious plays down here. I think there's a couple ways you can do it. If you want to chase maybe like not steam, but form, Austin Eckroat gained across the board. All 4 categories, and Sony came in 12th. It's going to be a name if you're box score hunting, you're going to see. Harry Hall is an intriguing name to me. He did it all with the putter last week. This guy's all over the map. It seems like he's an elite putter. And you know what? If you're going to look to even to speak to Lauer, he's an elite putter too. He doesn't really do it with anything else. He rolls it pretty heavily, relies on that. So you got those type of guys. I mean, dare I say my man, Sam Ryder. Sam Ryder, I think, is always just, his stats don't line up, but the guy is stronger on approach than most down here. He pops up randomly. I think you could do worse as a true 1%er than Sam Ryder this week.
I mean, look, he shot 69-71 last week. So again,
it was right there.
I'm recommending a guy like Bez who shot 74s. Ryder was there. Like he didn't really get it going, but it's a good point with the approaches. I mean, a lot of these guys are kind of weaker in that area. Ryder, that can be a strength for him. So no, I don't mind that call at all. I think again, like Ryder makes for a perfect, if you're targeting 2 players in this range, maybe like throwing like a Sam Ryder in with one of the putters we mentioned, or like one of the birdie makers from last week, like Kevin Yu, I see the chat on. Obviously, good young players are not going to be intimidated, but then you take a little bit of a wild card in Ryder in your next one. I do think that like it does feel like once we get under, let's say 67, I mean, we're left with some unappealing options. What about Ches? Like, I feel like going to Ches here isn't a terrible idea.
So the thing
Maybe
about
last week, Wasn't terrible.
I mean, he made the cut, but the thing that concerns me, nothing changed except he randomly gained 4 strokes putting, and that is the most atypical thing that Ches could ever do. His ball striking was actually worse. And
yeah, he's not going to save you around the green at all.
No, he's not. But again, what are you looking at? Like Garnett, Lingmer didn't seem to have it. I'm not sure. Ben Martin is down here. Chad mentioned him. I think if you're really in a jam, a couple names that Chad threw out here: Streb, Bramlett, MJ Defoe. Yeah. I'm going to try to avoid these guys, to be honest, but your guess is...
I would too. I would really try and double up on the high 6K range. I mean, Danny Lee, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, folks. Don't play Danny Lee. Just don't. That's just like a in perpetuity thing. Don't play Danny Lee.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Again, this is another player, but he's 6,800. So this really doesn't go to like a real salary saver. Brandon Wu is a strong player who's popped up before on easier courses. But again, like once we get down here, Sadashi Kadira has been okay, but like, man, yeah,
I'd rather play Ben Martin.
Ben Martin is, last week we had some Ben Martin and a few other guys. It feels like Ben Martin is like easily the class of the fields here in the 6,500 range, which is a little scary. So I don't know, man. My guy Harry Higgs didn't make the cut last week. That flamed out quick. T Dunks is down here. What has he been doing?
He dunks nothing good, man.
Nothing. Never mind.
Nothing good.
Your guy Brian Stewart was good. I had him on my lineup that was in contention for a bit.
Yeah, Stewart was
a bad Sunday, but he wasn't terrible. I would, honestly, I would probably just go back there because
obviously I played him last week. He was kind of my sleeper pick, and he showed up a little bit. One other guy in chat mentioned him badly. I mean, he played amazing last week.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a veteran player. Who knows, like, if this is going to be a consistent thing. Again, we have such a weak player pool to choose from that, like, if we're like, I'm going back to Aaron Baddeley here, there's no argument against it because there's really no one else down here. Like Ryan Armour looks good on paper, but, again, like he's Ryan Armour and he misses a lot of cuts. So Armour and Baddeley, 66 is fine. Once you get under them, I don't really have anything.
Yeah, it's Ryan Moore. I
go back to Brian Stewart. I would.
Yeah, Brian Stewart's as cheap as any of these guys. So again, when you get down here, you know what you're getting into. You better like what you have in these other spots.
Yeah, you need a reason to play one of these guys. You need like you message them on Instagram. Their wife or something, their caddy. Like seriously, you need something, anything to latch onto with any of these guys. Look, I played Scott Stalling once because I saw he was like training in the off season in CrossFit, and it worked out. And he was like 6K that week, but you need something like that to really, have a reason to play one of these guys.
You got to find something. All right. We say, Jordan Klein, you want to build a lineup? You want to get a little dangerous? And then I'm going to say this first because I want you to think about it while we're building the lineup. If you watched any Stokastic shows today, I accidentally started a heated debate with Lofty on the NFL show about what would be worse, to be in a pool with a hippo or be in an octagon with a gorilla. And I want to ask you, you could save your answer for after the build, what would be worse and why? So we're going to talk about that, Chad, in just a second, but let's build a lineup. We're going to bring up lineup builder. We'll do some things. This is how we do it. You pick, I pick. We're going to go a little, not snake draft, just we each got 3 players over on DraftKings. Sir, the floor is yours. Who do you want to put in the lineup first?
Okay. So let me get this pen. All right. So who are we starting off with here? I mean, what is our target in our build? We're building like a big GPP lineup.
Yeah, we're trying to win like 200K.
We're trying to win 200K. Okay. So for me, again, we're leaning on the projections here. I'm going to say that and I can pick anyone. Hey, I don't need to start like high up or anything like that.
No,
right?
Pick anyone you want. We're just going to build a lineup together.
Okay. Let's go with KH Lee. He's
right.
Probably my favorite, just pure overall play in terms of like where he is and all that jazz. So I'm going to throw him in.
So we got KH Lee in the lineup, and I'm going to keep it simple as well. I'm going to go with my favorite play of the week, and that is Cam Davis. I think that
Okay.
You like KH Lee quite a bit. I think that Cam Davis, with his ability to attack the par fives, I know he makes mistakes at times, but man, that is a guy that I really like in Cam Davis. So we'll put him. We've got KH Lee, and we got plenty of ways we can go now. So 4 more spots.
Yeah, we've definitely left it open to a lot of different ways by going a little balanced to start here. So, okay, should we get a little crazy here? Let's see. I am going to, okay, I'm going to throw in a low 7K guy. I'm going to throw in, wait, give me 1 sec. Let's go with a guy we actually didn't talk about at all. Matthew Neesmith.
Okay.
7,100.
Matthew Neesmith, 7,100. So we got 8,600 left. I'm going to take the cheap, easy layup pick because you afford us. Clearly, we're going to have one of the big dogs. There's no doubt after Neesmith. I'm putting Scotty Scheffler in here. I'm going to listen, you can't go wrong up top, but Scheffler and Finau are 2 of my favorites. I'm going to go with Scheffler. It's still going to leave us plenty of money. We're going to have $7,650 left for 2 spots. So we got Lee Davis, Neesmith, and Scheffler.
Okay, I like that because I was going to throw Scheffler in if you went balanced again. So we got 7,600 average left?
Yep.
Okay.
So you can really go anywhere.
Yeah, I can pretty much do whatever I want here. Let's go. Yeah, let's. Do I want to go there? Let's go with Cam Young, and then we'll. How much does that leave us with? I guess before.
Oh, $100 short of Brian Stewart, who I gladly would have.
Okay, that's too much. Well, I thought it was too much. I was doing the math wrong. Okay, let's take Cam Young out. That's too extreme.
No, that's too dangerous. That's a hippo in a pool level.
That's a silverback. Okay, so we need a little bit more balanced approach. Man, 7,600. Okay, this is easy actually. Let's go with Davis Riley. I just think he's undervalued this week.
Yeah, another one of your favorite plays. And now this is perfect. 7,600 left after Davis Riley. And we've got so many different options. It's a perfectly open end. Obviously, I could pick Rio or Detry, which I'm super comfortable with either of them. For me, if I was actually building this lineup, I'd actually leave 300 on the table and pick Steven Jaeger. I know that's not your favorite pick this week. That lineup would be unique. It would be high leverage. So you have a million different options if you build like that.
Let's put them in there because I think that's a perfect way to do it. Like we've picked some guys, Davis, KH, like they're gonna have some ownership. I put Neesmith in there to help bring the ownership down a bit, but if we had to put in Detry or Grillo in, like those guys would have some. So I think that's perfect. Like you said, it's a great leverage play down there. So
what a beautiful lineup again. It's our lineup builder. We're going to have some fun. Friends, it's time. It's a different type of hot take this week. I hope you enjoy what's about to happen. We're not going to get too crazy. This isn't going to be like me and Lofty. But I want to ask you, as I just said, before we get out of here, what do you think is worse? A pool versus a hippo or an octagon versus the gorilla? Now, clearly, I want to state, you're not getting out of it, but I had hot takes here, and Lofty disagreed with me vehemently.
So you just want my opinion straight up?
Yes.
Okay. So look, here's my thoughts on it. And Ben did mention that he was going to throw this question to me before. So I've had some time to think, but this is pretty straightforward. We're humans. We grew up on the land. The land is, it's our place. If we're ever going to get out of a jam somewhere, it's going to be with our feet on the land. Like gorillas, maybe you could distract it. There's things that gorillas are actually afraid of. So there's outs. Let's put it this way. There's outs for you against a gorilla. You get yourself in a body of water against a hippo. People, I'm telling you, if you have not seen a hippo swimming in a body of water, go look at it after this video. This is one of the most terrifying things you will ever see in your entire life. A hippo won't just kill you. It'll tear you apart. So no. It's the water, man. Like there's only so fast we can swim. Even Michael Phelps would get got by a hippo. This one's easy for me, to be honest. I'm not saying I'd be able to get away from a gorilla either. Like I'm probably done either way, but like I would much rather have my chances on the ground where I can use my legs, maybe pick up something that the gorilla doesn't like. And go there. I got no chance against the hippo. I'm like diving to the bottom and hoping he doesn't see me. That's my chance.
Hippos, first, being in the water, I couldn't agree more. I said this again. I'm repeating everything I said in the football show. You're in an element. You're in something else. Just like you wouldn't want to take on a bird in the air because you can't fly. It's just bad. Hippos, not that this is applicable to the water. They can run 30 miles an hour though. Like, good luck dealing with an animal like that. They're incredibly large, incredibly dangerous. You would have no chance.
And they're mean, dude. Like they're like I said, there's nothing that you're gonna do that's gonna scare a hippo off. So
Lofty, and again, I know he's not here to defend himself, but you can blast him on Twitter for his takes.
I will.
Said that he would use the wall of the pool to kick off, and as if somehow that's gonna top the hippo, which has no chance.
I think your chances are worse in a pool because at least like a river, there's probably more room. If you're in a pool,
Olympic pool, we were talking about.
I don't even know what he's pushing.
No,
off.
it's
like, was he planning on grabbing the hippo and like?
He said
riding it.
He said he could stick by the wall, kick off, and then get behind the hippo, and because it's so large, it won't be able to turn. As if, again, just nonsensical arguments. I'm not saying that the gorilla is going to be easy. You have big problems.
Big problems. But look,
come on, man.
I think that people see a hippo and they're like, oh, they're just lazy. They can't maneuver. I'm telling you.
Because of hungry hippos. That's stupid game. It's not like that in real life.
Yeah, they got the smiling hippos and everyone's happy. That's not what a hippo is, man. They're mean. So, and they're very mobile.
So many people.
Very mobile. Yeah.
They kill a lot of people. And on that note, on hippo murder, friends, we have done it. The American Express is in the books. Again, if you have more questions, if you have more comments, at the Fantasy Grind, follow that man. You can follow me at Rasa DFS. And of course, the man behind the show, Jordan Klein. Shout out to him, populating and making it work. We appreciate you hanging out with us late night here, but we're going to bounce on out of here. Thanks, friends. I know it's early season golf, but we really do want to build up the audience before the big tournaments start. We want you guys to get familiar with the tools before the big money comes in. So this is why sign up for those free trials, whether it's NBA Bet Pro or Stokastic PGA. And of course, thanks to PrizePicks for sponsoring us tonight. You can get that first match deposit of up to $100 over there. Good luck, friends. Enjoy the golf, enjoy the hippos, enjoy the gorillas. We will be back next week with all things PGA. But until then, cash these lineups and have a great time. Talk to you next week, next Wednesday.